So, Baylen, thank you for having us here in London.
Welcome to my majestic home. It's not my home.
It's so good that we finally get to do this because it's been in the works for a little while.
Yeah, we talked about it ages ago.
Yeah, it's good to finally sit down.
It's good to sit down and just have a chat without us being somewhere where we're focused on music or there's a million people around, because obviously we see each other all the time, but we very rarely have a chance to just chat.
It's exciting times for you, isn't it, at the moment? It must be a busy period.
It is a busy period. It's an exciting time, but not just for me, it's just an exciting time in general, isn't it? You know, there's so much going on now and it's kind of happening year round now, which is pretty much what we wanted, right?
Yeah, obviously, and as well as your festival commitments, you're obviously doing stuff for Chris Country as well. You do your front porch stuff, so tell us about that and how that's been going recently.
Yeah, so well, I guess my main focus is radio, you know, kind of doing radio's what's kind of led to everything else. So I remind myself of that a lot when I'm really busy with, you know, the Long Road or Nashville meets London or whatever it might be. Like, no, radio, because radio is the thing, because I love radio, and it's also just a great kind of platform to get artists some exposure, you know. So as you know, with kind of the radio stuff I do, I love obviously playing the big names and kind of all of that sort of stuff, but I really love playing those artists that maybe people haven't heard before, or the unsigned artists, or the artists that are up and coming, and UK artists. So it's great that radio allows me to do that. And Chris Country's great, you know, as a station in general, but they're really great to me in that they let me mix all of that stuff together. And actually, most of the radio I do, they let me mix all of that stuff together, which is really nice.
Yeah. I know there's going to be plenty of people watching this who see you everywhere and they hear you everywhere at the festivals and on the radio, but they probably don't know too much about your background and where you came from. So tell us a little bit about how a Tennessee boy becomes one of the most recognisable faces in British country.
well, I don't know if that's true, but thank you.
Trust me.
How did that happen? Well, I left Tennessee when I was 18, and I went off to New York City, and I loved that. And then after about 10 years in New York, I wanted to do something else. And I also didn't want to be one of those Americans who didn't really know that much about anything outside of America. So I thought, right, where can I go? And like a lot of people from the US, I had a little bit of a fascination with the UK and with London, and so I thought, well, I'll go give London a go, and kind of figured out how to, you know, make that work and get a visa and all of that sort of stuff, and then got here and kind of fell into radio. Really, I mean, I did voiceovers initially, and the first ones that I did was for Radio 1, and at that time I didn't even really know. I mean, this is 17 years ago now, so I didn't really know what radio. I just moved here, so I didn't even have a radio. I didn't know what Radio 1 was. So I was doing that for a while, and I really liked being in a radio studio. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'll do radio, you know, because I'd always loved radio, but I'd never really thought about doing it. So I started doing radio and was really lucky, and you know, lots of people were really kind to me and used me on shows and stuff like that. And I was always trying to, no matter what I was doing, you know, whether it was the breakfast show or the drive time show or overnights, obviously, and kind of all around the clock on radio, I was always asking them if I could do a country show. So I'd always go in to the director of, you know, whatever radio station I was working on and say, hey, how about I do a country show? And they'd go, we don't really think people here are into country too much. And so I'd keep bugging them about it. And eventually they would start letting me do country specials for like bank holiday. Basically, when every other presenter didn't want to work, they'd be like, oh, okay, you can do that, and fine, do a country show. So I would do country shows, and then probably about 5 years ago, I decided I only want to do country. Like this, it's what I love, it's where I'm from. So yeah, I just started saying no to everything that wasn't country related. And at first thought, oh, I don't know if this is going to work so well. But luckily, it kind of coincided with the time that everybody started really getting into country, and country started being seen as cool, you know, which of course we know it always was. So it just worked out timing-wise, it was perfect. And I guess it does help that I'm from Tennessee.
And that moment that you just spoke about where everybody kind of realised that the country was becoming cool was when C2C started, and that's been a massive part of the growth in this country.
Yeah.
So tell us about this year and your experiences of the festival this year, because you're a very busy man, as usual.
At Country to Country?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps getting bigger and better, doesn't it? And it's just like the flagship event for country in the UK. And what's great about that is that not only has it been obviously financially successful and kind of successful from like people coming to it, you know, the numbers that come to it. But I think what it's done also is that it's made the UK outside of the country world kind of sit up and go, oh, okay, this country thing is actually a thing. You know, people who maybe don't know that much about country. But it's also made Nashville go, oh, okay, yeah, they really get country in the UK. So I think it's been an amazing thing. And I loved it this year. I thought it was great. It's always interesting, isn't it? Because when not just C2C, but any festival releases its lineup, you know, there are people who have very strong opinions about that lineup.
Certainly with C2C in particular.
Definitely with C2C. But it was interesting to see how that it was actually received, you know, when it happened, because I'm thinking of Casey Musgraves actually, because when they announced that, there were quite a number of people who weren't over the moon, shall we say, about Casey Musgraves. And then I think that's probably not the case now, you know, especially with her new album and how that's been received and how she handled that. So I think it's a great thing.
Emmylou Harris was another one as well. I mean, the younger generation, I'll openly admit, I don't know too much about Emmylou Harris. It's before my time, obviously, but it was great to see people my age really embracing her music.
Yeah, and it was really heartening for me to see that as well, because obviously where I'm from, she's like a goddess, and also maybe because of my age, but I was really glad that she had that platform for people to see. And I think that's the great thing about festivals, and also kind of about the way that I try to approach my radio shows, is that you want to give people the artists that they like and the music that they're really into, but you also want to give them something that maybe they don't know, or maybe something that challenges them a little bit, or maybe kind of sits outside of the specific genre of country music that they like, because I like being challenged on stuff like that. You know, I like being proven wrong as well, you know. So I think that happened maybe with Emmylou Harris, because even if maybe that style of music isn't your thing, or if you don't think it's your thing, I think it's pretty tough to deny that she's absolutely brilliant singer, songwriter, performer, and she's an absolute legend.
Totally agree.
And you know, I'm not about kind of trying to educate people about stuff like that. Like people like what they like, and that's cool. We all do that. But I do think that if you can, you know, if you can be exposed to something that's maybe a little bit outside of what you think is amazing, and you can see the amazingness of that, then that's a cool thing all around, I think.
That's very true. Let's talk a little bit about Nashville Meets London.
Yeah.
So I know we've got some announcements coming very soon.
Yeah, it's coming up very soon.
So tell us a little bit about the story of Nashville Meets London and how you got involved with that project.
Well, I mean, the idea of it really is that we wanted to do a free concert. You know, I think that I think it's quite expensive to be a country music fan in the UK, and we wanted a way to kind of to put on something that people didn't have to spend a fortune to come and see, and Canary Wharf is great partners to do that with, because they've got a really great kind of year-round arts and events calendar that they do, and all of it's free, and also it's just a cool place to do it. You know, that square that's in the middle surrounded by skyscrapers, it just looks really great as well. So we had done some stuff there before it called Country Collective, and we'd done that for a couple of years, and then we talked about how to, you know, make that into a yearly thing and kind of rebrand it into something that could then maybe become something bigger than that, and maybe travel around a little bit as well, which is something that we're still looking towards in the years to come. And Canary Wharf was totally on board with that, and our partners here and then in Nashville as well. There's kind of three of us that kind of put that together and handle different facets of it, and we all kind of curate it together and decide what it's going to be together. And what's great about that, I think, is that because it's free, you can kind of put on something that maybe, you can put on some acts that people may not have ever heard of before, or there may be a little bit, have a different spin on country than you might get at maybe a more mainstream type thing. And because it's free, can't really argue about it, you know? It's like free, we're putting on a free party, so come along, and maybe you'll like some of it and maybe you won't like some of it. You're probably gonna have a good time either way. So, and it's just another way for me to have a platform to put artists on that I really like. And it's great also to do that thing where it's artists from the US and artists from the UK kind of together on the same stage, because I think that artists from the UK should be put on the same stages as artists from the US.
Yeah, and you've started to kind of expand that Nashville Meets London brand now, haven't you? Because you've been doing the Pizza Express stuff in London, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we wanted to keep it going throughout the year, because obviously we only do Nashville Meets London once a year in the summer, and we thought, well, maybe we can do some smaller club gigs kind of throughout the year, and just keep kind of the love of Nashville Meets London going, but also it gives us a bit more room to put on other artists, and also we can put on even more, I don't mean the word smaller in terms, but you know what I mean, you can put on artists that maybe aren't at the level to put on a big stage yet, but some that are as well, you know, because some people love doing those club dates. So that was the idea behind that. So we're not doing it year round, we're kind of doing 4 of them leading up to Nashville Meets London this year, and then we're looking at doing 4 at the end of the year as well. Okay,
so when can people expect some announcements for Nashville Meets London?
Soon.
I wouldn't expect you to give us any real details, but
soon. It's coming together very nicely. It's almost complete. And I mean, the thing that I've discovered with doing stuff like Nashville Meets London and The Long Road and anything like that is it can be quite a complicated process in getting, you know, kind of getting everything that you need in line to make that announcement. And you never really want to announce something before you have at least most of the moving parts in line. But I would say that with Nashville Meets London, most of the moving parts are now in line, so it won't be long.
That's very cool. Now, moving on to The Long Road, which is your big project at the moment. That must be a very, very special thing to you. It must be a big kind of ambition that you've followed.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's something that's kind of been in my head for a long time, doing a festival of that size, and an outdoor festival with multiple stages and all that sort of stuff. And of course, that's a huge undertaking, so I could never do that on my own. And then this opportunity kind of came up where U Live, who do kind of a handful of festivals around the UK, and they do 12 across the world, so festivals are their thing. They know how to do festivals. We kind of met up and talked about this idea, and we just got along really well. They obviously know how to do all the important things around a festival that make it a good experience for the fans. And I know country and Americana, so it seemed like kind of the perfect marriage. And so yeah, we got together and decided to do The Long Road.
Nice. And it's going to be held at Stamford Hall in Leicestershire. So tell us about why you chose that venue and kind of how you fell upon that.
Well, I didn't want to do it in the southeast was the main thing. I wanted to do it because I think that a lot of times, you know, the southeast gets all the biggies, and you know, maybe other cities kind of across the UK. But there's loads of country fans in the Midlands. You know, you're one of them. Birmingham is obviously a hotbed for country music as well. So I'd always wanted to do it kind of in the middle of the country. I wanted it to be somewhere that wasn't already kind of oversaturated with lots of artists coming to it. I didn't want people to have to travel and spend loads of money, because as we discussed, being a country fan's quite expensive. So I'd always wanted to do it in that area, and then when we were looking at sites, we went to Stamford Hall, and it just kind of felt right. You know, I don't want to be too mystical about it, but it just felt right, and it's a beautiful site. And also, I wanted to do it somewhere that we would never have to move it, you know, regardless of how much it grew. I wanted to find a home for it, and for that to be its home, you know, forever. And the great thing about that site and the land that they have there is that we'll never have to move, you know, regardless of how big it gets. So, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of back home as well, which sounds a little bit weird, just kind of the geography of it and what it looked like, and yeah, it just felt right. It felt like the right place to do it.
And like you're saying, it's not the typical startup festival with one stage, maybe to a push. This is like a full-on 5-stage festival.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the map that you put out, and there's like different zones, and it looks really interesting. So tell us about kind of the layout of the thing. And
yeah, well, you know, we wanted it to be. We wanted it to be something that you could experience lots of different things at. So, the 5 stages were important so that we could have different types of music on it, and again, going back to kind of how I approach country music and how I grew up listening to country music, I was listening to all different genres of country music. And I know that some people, you know, some people are lean more towards commercial country, and some lean more towards Americana. And, you know, there's loads of different bits of that. But I always find, and I'm sure you see this as well, that there are people who like all of that. You know, I see some of the same people at a Culture Wall gig, you know, that I would see at a Maren Morris gig. Yeah. I think there's room under that. That doesn't mean you have to love all of those things, but I think there is a lot of crossover there. And so I wanted the 5 stages for that reason. I wanted to be able to bring in kind of all of those different elements of it. And then kind of the lifestyle element of it was really important for me as well. I didn't really want to just put up some stages and have it just be about the music. Obviously the music is the most important thing, but I wanted it to incorporate all of those other things that we all love about country music, and I wanted it to be a type of festival that I would really want to go to, and I wanted it to be a type of festival that is like a celebration of all of this stuff, you know, not just come and watch some great music, but also, I mean, food obviously is always really important in a festival. So spend a lot of time making sure that we get the food right, and you know, not just authentic food from the US, but obviously kind of options for everyone. And then the lifestyle element of it, I wanted to bring in other partners as well, because I think the best way to do this, and certainly what I see with people who love country music, is it's really collaborative. It's all about kind of joining in together and doing this fun thing. So I wanted to bring in other people that I wanted to work with, and other organizations that I wanted on board. And so obviously we've got BBC Music Introducing, doing a stage there. So that was really important to me from the standpoint of unsigned artists, and giving them not just a platform, but quite an important one with the BBC Music Introducing kind of brand on top of it. And that's the first time that they've ever partnered with the Country Music Festival. So that felt really good. The Americana Music Association UK are doing a stage, and I'm on the board of that and work a lot with those guys. And again, that'll be some unsigned artists, but also some very much signed artists as well there. I wanted to bring in my hometown as well, because I am from Tennessee, but I'm specifically from East Tennessee, and a town called Bristol, which is officially recognized as the birthplace of country music. So the very first recordings of commercial country ever in 1927 were done there. So the Carter family came out of there, and Jimmy Webb came out of there. And they're a really important organization in country music and in country music history. And they do a massive festival where I'm from as well. So I've got them to come over and curate a stage as well, and to bring some artists from there, and to bring, you know, a bit of that history of country music. So that was really important to me. Loose Records is a label in the UK that I love. You know, I mean, talk about finger on the pulse. Yeah. They signed Sturgill Simpson when nobody was interested, so they know what's what. And they're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. So they're going to do a stage, and the Bluegrass Situation, which is a kind of really important organization in the States that, despite the name, is much broader than bluegrass. And this is the first thing that they've ever done outside of the United States as well. So kind of getting those guys involved and having it be in the UK, it meant that it had to be quite big. That's not to say there's not room to grow, and we're also not starting it on this, you know, huge, massive level, because I also want it to grow organically, and I want people to see it and experience it, and you know, I want it to all kind of grow with it together, because I think it's something pretty special that we're putting together, and Yeah, I hope everybody else does as well.
I'm sure they will. But another one of your partners is Book and Ball, and you've got them involved, haven't you, as well? They're going to be putting on, is it a bar or something?
They're going to do an after show. They're going to do an after party. Yeah, because I DJ sometimes always for Buck and Bull, and so it just made sense to have them along to do the after party. So they're going to do one of the after parties, which is really exciting because, you got to have an after party.
Of course.
Yeah. So so that's obviously, that leans more on the commercial country thing for an after party. But then we'll also, if that's kind of not your bag, we'll have acoustic late night stuff where you can be a bit more chilled out if you want to and listen to other types of music. So cool. I wanted to kind of just give options and also to show the kind of breadth of what country music is. And I know a lot of people know that already, but I think it's pretty exciting to see it all in one place.
Yeah, you've certainly done that. I mean, you've got everything from Leanne Womack to Catherine McGrath to Aaron Watson. It's such a broad range, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm really happy at how people reacted to it.
Yeah,
actually.
Oh, it was crazy, the reaction when you put it out last week.
Yeah, it was really exciting. Crazy. I was like, yeah, okay, they get it. This is amazing. Because I thought people would, but I also know, like we were talking about, sometimes people are very much like, that's country, that's not country, and I'm country and you're not country, and I don't really subscribe to that. So it was really nice to see that people didn't do that with this, and also all of those different types of artists, they'll be on different stages as well. So if you really are that type of person where you only like that and you definitely don't like that, you can avoid that if you want to. We're going to have all that over there for you. So I'm mixing the festival, but I'm not so much mixing the artists on the stage. That's cool.
I'm sure a lot of people will want to know about the camping facilities as well, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people coming for the weekend. So.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a camping festival, and that was always part of it as well. I wanted it to be a camping festival. I mean, I don't know, have you ever been to any of the kind of camping festivals in the States at all?
Not in the States.
Yeah,
Buckle and Boots is about as close as I get to camping. So.
Well, great, yeah. I feel like that's part of the element of it, because also, there's something about going to a festival where you kind of want to enter into your own little world. You want to be in that bubble for the weekend and not so much worry about what's happening come Monday morning and work and going back to the office or wherever and all that sort of stuff. So I think kind of living there is also part of it. And yeah, the camping facilities are great. I mean, it's a beautiful site all around. Obviously there's loads of trees, but there's a lake as well. And we put a lot of thought into where the camping areas go to make sure that those are just as lovely as, as the rest of the site that you'll be spending the day in. Because I think sometimes you can go to some festivals. I've been to some in the States where the actual festival itself is amazing, and then you go to the campground and it's just kind of a field with a fence around it, and you think like, oh, well, that's no good. So we put a lot of thought into that, and then of course, I'm aware that not everybody likes to rough it in that way, so there's lots of options for your camping and glamping, and there's a pop-up hotel there as well, and if you really want to feel like you're camping, but you also want to sleep on an actual bed with actual sheets, that's an option too as well. So hopefully there's something there kind of within that range for everybody that they'll like.
Yeah, okay. And a question I've been asked by quite a few unsigned artists is there going to be any kind of application process to?
Yeah, I've been asked that a lot as well. And there is. Yeah. We're working on putting that together. But also, I've kind of built into it opportunities for unsigned artists. I mean, actually, there are some unsigned artists on the bill already that I just put there because I like them. And obviously, with BBC Introducing, that's all unsigned artists. And they're going to have their own kind of process where they find regional artists across the UK to put on that platform. But yes, the answer is yes, there's going to be an application process. We're working out kind of what that looks like at the moment and how that works and how many slots there are. And but yeah, there's opportunity, and unsigned artists are always an important part of kind of what I do, so there's absolutely room for them. Of course.
Well, just to wrap it up, where can people get the tickets? And where can people check out all the details?
thelongroad.com, that is the website, thelongroad.com. All the information is there, and all of the ticket links are there as well. Nashville meets London, announcement coming soon. And obviously, I talk endlessly about it on my show, The Front Porch, on Chris Country every week. So,
yeah, well, we're looking forward to all the festivals this year, and thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time. Really.
Well, no, thank you for chat. I mean, and thank you for what you do as well, because it's really all about kind of everybody getting stuck in, and everybody's kind of doing it for the love, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's why it works so well.
Yeah,
you know?
Any way we can help out, give us a shout. We'll always be there. And,
I'm sure I'll be calling you.
All right, mate. And let's go and enjoy the sunshine.
I know.
It's not going to last. So it's just
no, but it'll definitely be back in September between the 7th and 9th.
Yes, definitely. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.